Hey folks, back again. This is kind of like a part two to what I recorded earlier, which I'm uploading it. I guess I got a low battery warning. The phone. I don't know where I put my charge cord, and probably just kind of like record something. Hopefully not that long, and then just head in and hook up to the wall socket. But just been kind of sort of processing a lot of the stuff from earlier, getting through my day. I'm really having to get back to, well, get my grades, settled or turned around. Sent out a couple emails. I think one was yesterday, the other one was today, to two different professors. I'm hoping one of them responds and I get a affirmative response. Just general admissions question, because I want to make sure that they're aware that I'm applying, or I'm interested in applying this semester final. I think one of them I talked to like a few years ago, right around the time of the pandemic, and then things got kind of hairy. I did take a online class with them, and I think I'd had one or two other classes as well. But where was I? So yeah, really having to get the classes stabilized again, bounce back from that as much as I can. There's definitely gonna be like one really tricky class. I don't know if it's gonna end up being like a C or a B minus. Luckily I already have that. It's like a duplicate class, so I can hopefully fall back on the better older grade. I was more doing it as like a refresher to get prepared for another course, a final prereq course. And I was hoping I'd be getting better grades, but it's I'm looking at it now and like calculating probabilities and all that. But stuff's happened that's happened. As long as I can get out of this, quote unquote alive, and get into grad school, I'll be okay, at least as far as that's concerned. But not really gonna take care of that. I got a bunch of things to do tonight. By tomorrow, most likely. But where was I? I got a little bit of back itch. But and then getting back on the job search, and it's times like these that like God, I appreciate the fact that and my dad has he's begun really owning up to a lot of the stuff that he did, which was wrong, and I want to forgive him. And he's been doing stuff to try and be a great support to me. Kind of sucks that I'm basically middle aged, and yet I'm still like somewhat depending on my my remaining parent for emotional support. But he's been really like getting on my case to hey, apply to this job, apply to that job, get your resume sorted out again, blah blah blah. I'll have to do that, and hopefully I can get something with pretty soon. I don't really know that's going to be the case. I mean, it took me even a few months just to get that temporary 3-week position, and then it's kind of like knocked the wind out of me. But I don't know. The thing that's really eating at me is just that finding out about that girl, and like that guy getting, that they're engaged and they're getting married, and all the things that swirl around that. Because it's like I don't know how to word it. It's just something that like it's sucky about life, that like it's not so much that none of us get out of this alive. It's that there's always like those scars, and it's not rational. If I were to see her in a lineup of like multiple beautiful women, I'd probably think she's really not that good looking. If there was a way to quantify her personality and her social intelligence, she'd probably score really low on that. just something else that like about all of that that just like scarred me so deeply. And you just kind of like realize, for one thing, how there are plenty of folks out there who are utterly careless in the effects of their actions and their words. And they wreck lives carelessly, and then they destroy relationships, they do all that kind of stuff, and then they just kind of go on to the next thing, and they're like, it's nothing to them. And it's like I'm sure I don't even cross her mind. I probably spent way more time thinking about her, or thinking about what she did and said, and all the stuff that happened, the things that I did or said. And I remember there's one video I made from way back then where I was like so distraught because I thought I was such a big, POS a-hole, and like I felt so freaking guilty about it. I was like, oh my gosh, she really liked me, blah blah blah. And it was like, I don't even know about that. I don't even know if there really was something genuine there, or if it was just some sort of temporary like lust, like she thought I was physically good looking for some weird reason, and it was kind of like being put in that category, but also not being able to benefit off of it. Um, I didn't get to be the whatever, but or was I? But yeah, like that's what's really been eating me up, just that. And it reminds me of, I think I did mention this in the last video, I'm probably repeating myself, but The Great Gatsby. He spends his whole, basically the sum or the balance of his life, the monetary value and effort and energy he spends on trying to build himself up to impress this one woman who doesn't, give a damn about him. And, he ends up dying as a result of her real loves, her real, her actual husband, infidelities and, actions and that sort of thing. And, and then she and the husband just wander up to their next engagement. And, I've seen multiple adaptations. I've seen the Robert Redford one where, God, I think it's Sam Waters is in it. Might be confusing that. I've seen the one with Leo DiCaprio, and I think Tobey Maguire, I think he's in that. But reminds me so much of that, because it's just it's hard to process the shortness of life, how there are people out there who will just like do that kind of stuff. And it hits on so many topics. Like, when I was about half my age that I am right now, I was so gung-ho to want to, go into the military. I tried. It didn't work out for a number of reasons. There's still a part of me that, wants to do something along those lines, whether it was like, I got my master's and I was in more of a research and development officer, role, or if I could get into medical school or what have you, be in a medical role. But well, there is a part of me that's like that. It's like almost like I have to contemplate, like, okay, where is that really coming from? Am I trying to keep something alive? Am I, it's just kind of like the waiting till marriage thing. It's just kind of like the like so many other aspects of my life. The straighters thing is just so much like I'm trying to, like I got something to prove. Like I'm fighting against the world. Like I'm trying to prove them all wrong. I'm trying to, I don't know what, it's it's something that I haven't really figured out, or is it a case of like, if we were talking about the military and like nationalism and patriotism and all that, like, would I be joining the same military that existed 20 years ago? Would I be fighting for the same nation that, I think exists in my head? Like, what version of, of this country, would I be going in to one degree or another, putting my life on the line for. Because it's like I see, and this is building off, again, off the guy and the girl, and by extension, you kind of go out from there. You end up with like their clique of people, or their various like friends and such, who are all pretty much all foreign born, druggies, fornicators, some of them of other variants of that lifestyle to one degree or another. Coming over here, being able to benefit off of so many of the good things that, at least once upon a time did exist, if not are existing in this country, while not giving really anything back. In some cases, I mean, I'm sure they try to find ways to not pay their taxes, period, or, to disrespect, different laws. Obviously, engaging in harassment of citizens of this country, and what I'd be being sent off to fight or serve in some capacity, where I'd be, to one degree or another, putting to my life or my livelihood, at least my livelihood on the line. So what, this space could continue to exist within which they get to benefit, and they get to live carefree, wonderful lives, live at the balance of their lives, live their best lives. It's sort of like that. Like they used to make those films. I mean, you could call them propaganda. They essentially were, the why we fight. And it was this. I think it was from World War II. It might have been later than that, Korea or Vietnam. But it went into sort of like at least the official story of like, hey, this is why we're at war. This is why this is why you're here. This is why you got drafted or you enlisted, or this is why we're involved in this titanic struggle. This is a struggle against the forces of of evil. We're on the good side, and here's what we're trying to protect. Trying to preserve. And it's almost like having to revisit that, because one of the underlying assumptions, at least, was sort of like what we were trying to build here, at least, and I'm not saying there weren't forces within the country that pushed back against that or were detrimental to this cause, but it was this idea of like building a new clean, pure, noble, virtuous, rarefied, like almost like a sanctuary of sorts, where people would be allowed to flourish. And obviously, like I said, it hasn't been like a perfect project. It hasn't been a perfect endeavor. I mean, you don't have to really look back that far, and you can find all sorts of flaws. And hey, well, that's the case. Now, what about this, and this? All these examples of civil violence, and along racial lines, religious lines, gender lines, you name it. But maybe this is because I was a kid at one point, and I'm kind of thinking about the world I thought existed as a kid. It's kind of like the country I thought existed, I suppose, coming through the late 90s, was kind of like the America that officially existed, well, fictionally existed in Independence Day, that movie, that franchise. And a number of other franchises. I mean, you can get into Falling Skies, you can get into just multiple sci-fi and fantasy series where it was set in America, which is the country I'm getting at. And I'm making this after having watched a series of videos by a dude named Raymond, who is, I think he's a couple years younger than me, but he's solidly in the millennial generation, and definitely expresses a lot of the opinions that that I have, at my age with my set of experiences. Um, though I'm not, I mean, I think maybe I have a bit of a. I mean, everybody I think has something of a unique perspective. I have my unique perspective for certain reasons that are largely outside of my control. Being mixed race and all that. But I guess the question is sort of like, one of the reasons why those memories, and finding out about them, get engaged and having an actual date and a location set back in her home country, and obviously that meaning that her family knows and they accept him and I think he's awesome and all that. Um, and the quality of life they gotten to have, they've been able to pursue their dreams just like their other foreign-born friends. While I'm stuck here, struggling and losing my family, having to fight for whatever little scrap I get, in my own country. Um, it kind of makes me like ask the question of like, okay, what is this place called America? Nowadays, like, if we were, hypothetically fighting for this country, like, what would that mean? What would that really mean? And obviously, if things get that bad, get bad enough, that they get bad enough that we're dealing with conflict in our own communities. I mean, you really can't, like, maybe you don't have the luxury of asking the question, so I'm trying to ask it now, just so I at least have an answer. Because it really does feel like, and again, I was a kid in the 90s, adolescent in the 2000s, becoming an adult in the 2010s, at least biologically. I mean, I don't really feel like an adult 100%. I'm sure that's not something that's really uncommon, but I don't know if I feel like as at home here as once upon a time did. And I don't mean just the city I live in, the neighborhood, all that. I mean something broader than that. It's like, what happened. We had the anniversary of it, the 23rd anniversary of it recently. When that day happened, when those events occurred, when those things were brought to happening, it really is an understatement to say that the world fundamentally changed. But I went through, because of my ethnic and racial background, I went through this major alienation, this period of alienation where I was no longer really treated as someone of this country who belonged here, who was born and raised here, who could trace my lineage in these lands, back to like my 3 times great grandparents on my mom's side of the family at least, and then and if you go collaterally on my dad's side, you could at least go back to like my grandfather's generation. But I went from being that person who was outside of maybe, oh, what, okay, he doesn't eat pork or he doesn't drink, or it wasn't anything like so under a microscope, just only being under a microscope and being alienated and being forced to like explain myself everywhere I went, pretty much. And it's almost like in the midst of all of that happening, where I was, fighting for that, having to go through that, it's like this opening was created for people like that to come into here. And yeah, on the surface of it, they did it legally, most of them. One of those guys, he would brag about how, and not the guy that she got with, but this other dude, he bragged about how, I think he said his mom, she flew in here from, I think it was Guatemala or like Costa Rica or someplace like that, and she was pregnant with him, and I think they'd have like they were officially here as, she was officially here as like as like a tourist. I don't know if they do tourist visas to the United States from the other countries. You have to apply for that, or you just like can just, I don't know. I guess it depends upon the nation. Some nations will be like, oh, you don't need a visa, and other ones will be like, you need a visa. But that she officially came into the country as, oh, we're getting down to 10%, as where did I put it? What was this for? That was for, I don't know, I was into a juicy part of the conversation. Did I honestly take that out of here? Does this even, this probably doesn't even go with it, does it? Hold up a second. Get into the juicy part of the conversation, and then my phone has to start dying. Damn it. But that she came here as a tourist, and then she gave birth to him here, and then decided not to go back to her country of origin. And so he essentially was one of those, they used to use the term, I'm not saying I 100% agree with it. You have some nutters on the right who will use these terms, and they want to slur people, but almost like an anchor baby. And during this time when this space of sorts was created, opening, these folks moved in, set themselves up here, and then what? They got to take part in all these great things in this country. I mean, the university you went to, I mean, it's a state university. It's funded by taxpayer dollars. This is not some private university where, it's they got like some, billionaire making an endowment to it or something like that. And they got to have all that, and now they're off living these wonderful lives. And it's like they're in their bubble. Nothing ever goes wrong. They get to be in love. She's his ride or die chick, pivoting from talking about the friend of theirs who's an illegal, basically. I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it. Oh, and that guy, yeah, he gets to work as a process engineer. Others, they have picked up jobs like that, and it's like, I don't think her and I in reality would have ever been a great couple or really matched up, but it's sort of like it's almost like not really wanting her, but wanting what they get to have, and knowing that she did everything she could to take that away from me, and then just got to go on to her next engagement, and yeah, these folks get to come in and partake of that and build, much better lives for themselves than, I get to have, or my family gets to have. And that's so much of why that eats away at me. It pinches upon so many different topics. So like, I've gone to the nationalism, patriotism, deal. I've gotten into, I think the last video really delved into the religion part, spirituality, morality, ethics part. And there's just the narcissistic abuse part. There's what it does to your mental health in terms of your ability to trust people and to open up and form relationships, and believe that you can actually go and, in my case, get a girlfriend and not have somebody come along and just wreck it for you, because they're just, they see you're happy and they don't like that, and they want to, just demolish your life because, screw you, like, you know, is how it freaking is. But, yeah, I don't know if it's something that needs to be put into words or something that needs to be just felt, but it really hurts. You know, I so do want to get some news that something really bad just happened to happen to them. Like, you know, it just like it was one of those like bad luck episodes, you know, where you just be like, wow, like they really had some really bad luck. And, you know, normally I would feel sorry for them, but actually I'm kind of getting some, you know, shameful joy, some schadenfreude from it. I would really want to hear that. I would really want to hear that, like, I don't know, you know, she being narcissistic, you know, pushed him too far one time, and then they got into a scuffle again. Like they, you know, he slapped her around a few times when they were, you know, initially dating. You know, which of course, you know, blows the um, tires out from under, you know, this whole, oh, you just gotta be congenial and nice and all these things. It's like, no, this guy literally manhandled her and they're still together and they're getting married. But, you know, something like that were to happen and then, you know, that led to them breaking up. I wouldn't be wanting to get with her at that point. That's just not my, you know, I don't want to do that. Or he cheated on her, or she cheated on him, or they both lost their jobs, or I don't know, the laws got changed so that it actually benefited people who were born and raised here or who, you know, abide by the laws and customs of the country, and they lost their visa status, or they, you know, lost their green cards, or they got deported, or, you know, I just would want to see like everything fall apart for them, and it would be so satisfying, but I can't wait around for that. But anyways, you know, that's sort of my follow-up to it. I'm honestly, I think I'm in a slightly better state of mind right now. Though I want to be kind of careful with that because it seems like whenever I get like that, you know, stuff goes sideways and things get really bad. But yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. So anyways, I'm struggling with this whole NoFap thing yet again. I'll have to get back on that and just, you know, I'll have to find some sort of motivation or something that I'm driving towards because otherwise there's really like nothing to really motivate me. So anyways, thanks for watching and thanks for the support. I'm gonna shut this off before the phone turns off. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.